Hello and welcome to Keep Hope Alive podcast. Boy, do we have a show for you today. I got Bob Young here with us, and he is going to talk about mind golf, get into some metaphysics and other stuff like that. And I know you guys probably might have a question about Bob Young, and we'll get that covered. And maybe I'll just let him say who he is. So, welcome, Bob. How are you doing today?
Fine, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me on your show. It's
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy that you're here with us. And, before we start to dive into your journey and everything, I have a question for you. How many weddings have you been in, let's see, or gone to in the past 15 years?
actually one wedding, an informal, not in a church. It was in someone's home. I just recalled that, and
Oh, okay.
it was a social gathering slash wedding at the same time.
Gotcha. So when you did go there, and maybe they had this and maybe they didn't, usually when guests are going to see the ceremony, there's something for them to sign. Do you know what that is?
Well, we all signed a big book, um,
A big book, yes.
and, and the gathering was replete with individuals in the music business, and it was actually the one of the founders, Greg Keeler, of a band in Canada called Blue Rodeo, which is famous in Canada, and they tour in Europe too, and sometimes in the United States. They're really good. And it was Greg's wedding, and he married the daughter of someone who was a friend of my brother's, as a matter of fact. So it was an interesting.
Ah,
I saw a whole bunch of people that I see at concerts, and it was enjoyable, but it wasn't the formal. Uh,
yeah. Yeah, it wasn't like a big formal one. And I think now these days weddings are taken a step back. I know when I went to the last bridal show, I was watching their fashion show and I couldn't believe it. I mean, I guess I'm very traditional. I always think wedding gowns to be ivory or white, but now they've come out with black wedding gowns. So now the reason I was asking you that, one of our big sponsors here at Keep Hope Alive is lifeonrecord.com. So instead of having that guest book, they put a rotary vintage phone out there that the guests can pick up and leave a message and say, congratulations on your wedding. Or maybe you get a groomsman on there going, hey, it's about time you put a ring on her finger, wishing you two the best, whatever they want to say, blah, blah, blah. So, but other than that, right next to the phone, they have a QR scan code that the guests can use their own phone too to leave that message. So all you do is scan that. Now, I call this the gift of voice, hearing your friends and family congratulate you. After everything is collected, they will burn all those messages either on a 12-inch vinyl record or they have a keepsake speaker, which I call a little boom box. You get the phone number. Make sure you hear that phone number, not the phone. You got to return the phone, but the phone number for 1 year. And not only weddings, this can go for any event. And their plans only start at $99. It's such a great deal for us. It's something that you can listen back to all the time. Check out more information on Life on Record at www.lifeonrecord.com. All right, Bob Young. Who are you, Bob Young?
well, at this stage of life, I'm the author of this book, Mind Golf, and because I played golf since I was 12, when our family moved to a house across the road from a golf course and in Pickering, Ontario, little place outside of Toronto, now a suburb of Toronto, I guess. Might as well be. At any rate, that's where I started playing golf, and I was a member of the Canadian PGA for about 25 or 30 years, somewhere in there. And I was fortunate to be, I played a lot of competitive golf. I was interested in playing the game. I wasn't interested in being in a pro shop selling golf balls to people and being nice to all the members of the golf course. I could be nice to them, but I wanted to play the game. That was my interest. And I spent about 40 years in a friendship with a fellow whose name is Moe Norman, the only golf pro striker of golf balls, compared equally with Ben Hogan, who's famous in golf circles. And his name is known probably by people outside of golf also. And he
Hmm.
was and is, along with Moe Norman, considered the masters of the technique of hitting the ball in a straight line so that it goes from wherever it is to where you want it to be next, dependably. They could do that. And there are other people who can do it, but with the consistency over years and years and years that those two people had, not really. There's nobody out there who's that good, consistently. It's interesting watching them. Anyhow, that I kept notes on. We had
Well,
places here in Florida, Moe Norman and I, where we practiced every day for years in the winter, and then same in Canada in the summertime. And people off the PGA Tour who knew how to find us would occasionally come in and participate. They'd watch what Moe was doing, and me too. That was interesting, but it was I kept notes. I didn't know what I was going to do with them, but I kept notes. And then
hmm.
eventually I thought, I'm going to write a book about this because nobody else writes and has in their writing some of the things that I'm aware of. So I wrote this book. In the book are uh, references to uh, things that would some people have viewed it as being sophisticated and not complicated. It's fairly obvious in some respects, and a lot of things that are great are simple, but until you understand the simplicity, they're complicated. And I mean, for the sake of any of your audience that are actually golfers, and there's golfers in every phase of life you can think of someplace, right
Oh,
from
yeah.
poor and to people who are running huge corporations. The golf is there. So um, I'll suggest this, and it was suggested to a jewelry designer whose name is Jimmy Merck by me on the phone, and I was talking to him one day, and he said, he plays golf a couple or three times a week, and he shoots scores at 91, 2, 3, 4, like
Hmm.
20 over par or thereabouts. And I said, look, when you're on the golf course the next time, look at the ball in front of you, put it precisely at the destination point that you choose, not, somewhere in the middle of the fairway. Pick a spot out that's exactly where you want it to be. And the same when you're hitting it at the green. Do that. And then look up in the air and you'll sense where the ball will begin its descent. And then your mind comes back to locating the apex of the flight, which is where that place where the ball goes into free fall is. That's the apex. Come back and you'll have a feeling, a vision or something of the whole shot. Hit the ball. Don't stand there and wonder what you're doing. Just hit it. So what happened was this guy went out the next time with that little bit of advice, and he made 4 birdies and he shot 80, which is a huge step in the right direction. Then
Wow.
I met he's a jewelry designer, and he was at a show in Daytona Beach last spring, I think it was. And I met
Okay.
him. He said, I've never been able to do it that well since. And I said, well, are you looking at trying to figure out why it works? He said, yeah. And I said, don't think about it. Just do what I suggested in the first place. Put the ball at the destination point, find the apex in your mind, and then hit the thing. Don't start wondering why it works, because that leads in another direction. That leads
Yeah.
into the metaphysical world. I said, think about it. The guy's a jewelry designer, and the stuff he makes. I don't even have jewelry, but I was looking at what this guy did, and I thought, this is really interesting. So I said to him when I met him, I said, you have a vision of these designs that you make, and then you
Yeah.
create. I said, all I'm saying is have a vision of the flight of the golf ball and then let it happen.
I like that.
One of
That's
these
really
things
good advice.
one of these things is happening right now. You see a vision of your jewelry design, and then it becomes real in slow motion. The difference
Hmm.
between that and hitting a golf ball and getting to go where you want to have it go is it's comparatively speaking, it compresses the time. It might take, I hit some golf balls yesterday, and my vision's been a little blurred. Now my vision's getting better. It's interesting watching what's going on. But I walk up to the ball, I look at it and do what I just said. It might take 4 or 5 seconds and I hit the thing. It doesn't take long, but I understand the mental construct. But
That is really good.
I understand where to go to get the energy. I know how to increase the flow of energy now. I didn't before. I had a way to do it. Now I have a more refined method. And I can use it playing the guitar or the
Mm.
piano. Put myself in that frame of mind. It eases everything. It even eases talk.
Yes. I my boyfriend, he plays piano too, and I'll just sit back and I'll watch. But I was like, that is something I don't think I could ever do. And I joke around. I go, well, I know three blind mice. Can that make a big hit right there? But just the way, with the pedal, his energy and just I notice sometimes he'll play with his eyes shut. And I go, that has to be like a musician thing because I did a photo shoot. I do photo shoots of some bands, but I remember there was one man and he was playing the guitar and his eyes were shut the whole time. And when it was break time, I was like, I love the pictures I got of you. And I can tell you're passionate about what you do. I love that your eyes are shut. And he goes, God leads me. And I go, that is awesome. That was the best thing to hear. But, finding energy is so important because not a lot of people know how to do that. So, how did you learn about it?
Well, it happened gradually. There is I guess it's a discipline or it's a way of connecting to energy that I think is used in East, maybe in Asia, that it's ancient, or maybe it isn't. But uh, the term etheric body, have you ever heard that?
Mm-mm, no.
Ether, Etheric. The etheric body is known as the body that moves with ease. So it was explained to me, I think, sometime in the 1970s. Imagine another being within your skin that occupies the same feet, legs, torso, neck, head, brain structure, consciousness, sense of touch, taste, smell, hearing, eyesight. And when
Mm-hmm,
you envision that and hold it in your mind, there it is. Now, when your physical body breathes in and then breathes out, let the etheric body breathe in what it perceives, which is that invisible being within your physical body. Now, when I did that, and there's reference to it in this book, Mind Golf, because I talked to Moe Norman about it,
mm-hmm,
and I told him what I was going to do, and then I did it. And he said, what happened? And I said, well, the colors looked at me like they're all brighter around me, and I feel lighter on my feet, and everything I'm doing physically seems to be eased. It's easier for me. And he said,
mm-hmm.
I can see what you're doing on the golf course. And it's more fluid, is basically what he was saying. And I said, that's the reason. I didn't do anything other than what I've been doing anyhow, but this eases it. Now, that was what's that? Probably the best part of 45 years ago. Now, I have gradually, over the decades, for one reason or another, come by ways of understanding where the energy comes from. Not that it's far away, it's sitting right in front of everybody, but it depends on how you view it.
Yeah.
Recently, I was talking to some people here in Florida about this, about what we're discussing, about what I'm saying now. I said, look at, you're trying to figure out how to understand, how to get more energy and understand this. Look at this planet. The place
Mm-hmm.
is amazing. We have other planets in the solar system. However, this is the only one that looks like this place. It's got mountains, rivers, oceans, fish, people, all sorts of things going on, atmosphere. It is definitely an interesting creation. The power that created that also obviously created the sun, which shines on the earth and helps keep it going and keep us
Yeah.
going. But whatever created those things also created the people who are here. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that fine. Okay. No, this is not
And
this.
then life gives us energy too. Like I always say, I need to be outside with the sun, vitamin D. I need to get it. It energizes me a little bit more. But when you are talking to the people and, mind on golf, it's really about taking, I guess, your energy, your soul, and visualizing and knowing that it's going to be a great outcome. So, still, what I'm hearing from you is like you have a lot of confidence, and that's a good thing. So, where people can just sit back and just, well, oh, I may not get this, or it's becoming a worriment. And I hate to compare these two. Like when I go to the doctor's office or hospital and they have to draw blood, I go, I'm used to saying I'm a hard stick, but I gave them doubt by saying that, correct? So I said it the last time last week, and the guy got it right away. And I go, can I ask you something? I go, I told you this and you got it right away. And I go, that makes you special. And he goes, yes, because I have confidence. It's not going to become a challenge for me. I know I got this. And I loved hearing his energy towards that. Now in golf, you know, and when I was younger, I worked at a bunch of different golf clubs, and I remember the pro took me out. He wanted to teach me. I was unteachable. I will admit that. Like the whole thing, you're going to pull your arm back and you're going to hit and you're going to visualize. No, but what I am good at is Mario Golf. So playing online, but it does take a lot. I will sit there and I will watch games and I'm just in awe because it really takes a mindset to play the game. And you said playing at age 12, which is amazing. So was it a family member who got you involved or was it friends?
Well, we moved to a place right across the road from a golf course. The
Oh,
fourth,
okay, yeah.
the fourth tee on the golf course took me about 1 minute to walk to. And I got to know the golf pro, who was actually a school teacher. And so I just started to play. And I used my father's golf clubs. He was left-handed. And then one day he was away and his golf clubs were in the car. And so I used my mother's clubs, which were right-handed. And the
Hmm.
first time I used them, I shot 97, which was 3 shots under 100. So I kept
Hmm.
playing right-handed from then on. I thought I'm better at it right-handed than I am left-handed. And I just
Yeah.
kept, and then I played in junior golf tournaments, and I became one of the best amateurs in the province of Ontario when I was a teenager. And because of that, and the fact that lots of athletes played golf, I got to know in Canada, hockey's big. The Toronto Maple Leaf hockey team, uh,
Hmm.
those guys played golf. My father, when I was in high school, became he was a sports columnist at a national paper called the Globe and Mail. And he wrote all 30 or 40 books that were published in Canada also. And he wound up doing, when television came along in the 1950s, he was doing the televised intermission interviews on
Hmm.
national television. So he became known nationally immediately as soon as television showed up on the scene. And then,
Gotcha. Okay.
so I was just a kid, I was 14 or 15 years old or whatever it was. And because of his association with hockey, we had great seats in Maple Leaf Gardens, which was the place the Toronto team played. And I knew all the people. I had access to the press room, the Toronto Maple Leaf dressing room, the place where the radio broadcaster Foster Hewitt broadcast from way up in the rafters of the building, and that was normal for me. So my father
Yeah.
was, but that's where I started playing golf, and that's what I was doing, and then later, I mean, Neil's my brother's 3.5 years younger than I am, but he was listening to music while I was playing golf, and then eventually, not even a long time later, um, he went to he came to Toronto from Winnipeg. My parents were divorced, and then my mother and Neil went to Winnipeg, and then Neil came back to Toronto for several months, and then went to California, and that's when Buffalo Springfield got created, and his career as a singer-songwriter musician started, and then he
Yeah.
became known the way he is now, like a fixture in the international entertainment scene, along with others, that I knew who were just, they were just playing their guitars and singing their songs. Like Joni Mitchell's another one. I've known Joni from way back there around late 60s, I guess, early 70s. They play coffee houses in the hippie kingdoms of the day. In Toronto was Yorkville, and then Greenwich
Oh,
Village in York. And John Prine, among a whole raft of people that some of whom you know of and some of you probably never heard of, but there they were. So that was normal for me, and there was nothing unusual about it.
well, that's cool. So, I mean, you know, yes, you have a famous brother, but you know what, Bob? You're famous too. Everybody's famous in this world. So, his art craft is being a musician and being out there, and yours is the golf and the teaching and the metaphysics and everything. And then, I mean, before I know there's so much more. I'm going to dive in a second, but I really quickly want to jump in and ask you another question. Okay, it's off topic. Do you know what these are right here?
Like I can see you're
Have
holding
you
something
seen them
very
on Facebook? Faith
uh,
and hope is the words. I don't know if
within
it's coming backwards, but these are called snap bands. And snap bands were made. I'm going to go into it a little bit, but this top one, the one that says faith on it. So you can only go through their website and use the promo code KHA for Keep Hope Alive to get this. And they come in all different colors and everything. So what snap bands is, I mean, we live in this world, right, that is so stressful at times, whether we're watching the news, it's work, school, relationships, health issues. So we are surrounded by anxiety every day. So negative thoughts can keep popping into our head over again. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy of anyone loving me. Bad things always happen to me. So if you ever had these types of thoughts, you're not alone. More than 40 million Americans are diagnosed with anxiety disorder. Anxieties, worries, and fears can stop you from finding that inner peace and achieving your true potential. So you deserve your best life. Finally, there's an amazing new bracelet called Snap Bands, and it's invented to help you reduce anxiety, control OCD, and calm stress. So they are also a cognitive behavioral therapy tool based on proven brain neuroscience, and the way Snap Bands work, it's amazing. So let's pull these out again. The way they look is a style piece of jewelry on your wrist, but its unique design actually hides a secret elastic band that sits right on the inner wrist, which is your pressure point of your brain's nervous system. When you give the elastic a light tug, you can feel a gentle, soft vibration on your inner wrist. A gentle physical sensation is all you need to reduce the anxiety, and here is why. Did you know that the human brain can only deal with one emergency at a time? I didn't know that. I learned something new. So, when you feel this unwanted memory or something happening in your life, you can hide it and just be like, okay, I hope this will go away God, take the steering wheel with me. We got this. We're going to make it just disappear. That's usually my little say. But they come with mantra words. And I told you about faith, and that makes it eight. But there are seven different ones. One is believe, blessing, dream, fearless, hope, love, and peace. And when you choose the one that resonates the most powerfully with you, and you do your snap, think, I believe in myself. I am a blessing. I'm fearless. I will always have hope. So all these come in beautiful different colors to comfortable. You can wear your bracelet all day long. You can even get them wet. I do the dishes, I take my shower in them and everything. And they're made out of a vegan leather. So people with sensitive skin, it's not going to irritate it one bit. But what I love most about it, every time you buy one, they give a portion to the leading mental health organization. You can visit their website at www.snappbands.com. And let me spell that out. It is SNAPPBANDZ. So we're here. They're here to make the world a better place. Remember that promo code. If you want the word faith on your bracelet, it's KHA. All right. So coming back to Bob, I hope that wasn't too long of a commercial. So, you know, you did it. You have a book out there too. You talked about mind golf.
Yeah.
And then going in there, you talked about like how to do the metaphysics in it. And then you were telling me there's a song, and I want you to talk about that song that you did.
Well, the song is in the audio book,
Oh,
and the
audiobook. Okay.
audio book of Mind Golf has the song in it, and the song is there uh, for one reason: the creative energy involved in assembling the image of the shot to be in
Yeah.
golf. It's the same creative energy that's involved in doing a painting, playing music, writing music, and that song came about. It dawned on me the creative energy is the same creative energy. It's a power in the creation of thought, is what it actually is. That's the simplest description I can give you. But the power in the creation of thought can be aimed by the person who has that power or recognizes it into whatever it is that they envision manifesting, so that
Gotcha.
energy is creates the intent to bring something into manifestation, and then the actuality of the activity that causes the manifestation to become real, to become actual, transpires.
Mm-hmm.
Like an architect, for instance, can envision a building. You don't snap your fingers or hit the chord on the guitar and the building appears. However, the process is the same. That one of them, comparatively speaking, an architect who envisions a building, and then someone says, yes, that's the building I want. Now the construction company comes along and they build it, and then there it is.
Mm-hmm.
The desired image of a painter uh, can be something that can be created as they're thinking about it, and they have their paints and they paint it, and there it is. Now that doesn't take long, or it could take weeks. I have no idea, but or anywhere in between, immediately, and whatever length of time. And writing a book is the same story. You sort of,
Same thing.
I'm going to write more. There's no question about that. I grew up with writers, and I wasn't trying to imitate them or anything, but uh, the subject of energy intrigues me. It always has. And
Mhm.
I'll write about that, about what is called the metaphysical aspect of it. I'm not sure how many people know what the word metaphysical means. I'm not sure I know what it means, but I do know
Well, yeah,
where I
a
can.
little bit about it. Yeah. So, but that's good that you're going to write a book about it.
I was, yeah, I will. I mean, we'll see what's in it, but I mentioned you told me prior to us beginning this discussion that a lot of the individuals that that are tuned into your show are interested in metaphysical stuff. Now that intrigues me. That means that audience, from what I can glean, is growing nationally
Yes.
and maybe globally. However, whatever that means, it's obviously getting bigger. And you mentioned that they're interested in aliens. Well,
Yes.
obviously,
Yes.
number of sightings of what they call unidentified flying objects, and now they call it, what is their new name? Um, Unidentified aerial phenomena. What's the, I don't.
What's the difference? Yeah.
Well, it sounds different. Sounds, oh, you didn't know something else? What, from my perspective, after the Second World War, I was 6 years old in 1948. There were a huge number of UFO sightings. At the same time, the United States and Russia had a competition going to see who could blow up the biggest atomic bomb. You look at the historical record. I remember as a kid looking at the front page of the newspaper one day saying number 52. It was a 50-second atomic blast in the testing series, maybe in the desert in the United States, or that was a 50-second blast of accumulated explosions created by United States and Russia. However, so there you have that activity, and then there's these UFO sightings. So one of the points was maybe they're coming here to look and see what we're doing, blowing up all
I
the
think
the
I
other.
know the answer. They're protecting us. They don't want us using anything nuclear. I mean, the podcast is called Among Us that I did. It's on the website, but they're here to protect us. If they
I,
sense that we're going to be using nuclear, they want to try to intervene and help us, like, not do that. The world doesn't need to come to this big end with nuclear bombing.
I
So that is the one thing they're protective on.
I agree with that. As a matter of fact, the I've had access to that kind of information also, and except for the bombs dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki in the Second World War, um,
Hmm.
haven't been any nuclear weapons used that I'm aware of in any kind of international conflict. So, what I glean from my access to the metaphysical world is that in the event that any country decides they're going to use nuclear weapons, the powers that be, who are greater than the powers that run our countries, will intervene and prevent it from happening. And as a
Yeah.
matter, I mean, metaphysical stuff. This cover on my book, you see this?
Okay.
You see it
Yes.
now. The,
Hmm.
that's the image I suggested to the artist,
Yes.
which has to do with the construction of the shot to be. Now, that artist was one of the most gifted trance mediums in North America. Very few people knew it, but I did because I was present when um, she became a medium.
Hmm.
As she took 2 or 3 deep breaths, her eyes closed, and another voice started speaking through her. And the other voice I learned very good. Actually, the next day, I had a reading booked with a medium whose name is Jim Gordon, who came from a place
Hmm.
in Pennsylvania called Ephrata. Anyhow, during that, the voice that communicated with me identified himself as, you may have heard of Paramahansa Yogananda, and he said, it was I who overshadowed the young lady yesterday. And
Hmm.
Paramahansa Yogananda created the Self-Realization Fellowship, which is based, I think, originally in San Diego. I believe there's another um, uh, center right
Hmm.
into Sunset and Pacific Coast Highway in Los Angeles. At any rate, if you look up Paramahansa Yogananda, you will see what it says. And
Wow.
this individual, Diane Marshall, her name is, who did this painting, was her sessions, which were
Hmm.
kept out of, nobody knew it except she and I I recorded a whole bunch of it. So there's all of the audio recordings of those things. When she did a session, the voices that spoke, the individuals that communicated with me through her, if you didn't know that it was a woman, you would not know whether this voice was a male voice, because it would sound like it, or
Mm-hmm.
it altered. Certain individuals whose names you would know, one of whom's Abraham Lincoln, and also
Okay.
John Lennon from the Beatles. His voice had an English accent, and in the same session one day, Abraham Lincoln spoke. Totally different voice, but coming through the same individual.
Huh.
Interesting. Not very many
Yeah.
meetings could do that, and um, it's interesting. But the information has a very broad. I mean, I ask a lot of questions, and I still have access. And
Yeah.
you said something about aliens. When I was a child, I told you prior to this discussion that I saw these so-called UFOs in broad daylight. It was in the fall of the year in southern Ontario, in a rural area near where I lived, and it was, it just looked like a metal, silver-colored ship, and
Mm-hmm.
it was floating along above the ground. I could see. I was in a rural area, and I could see underneath it across this little meadow to the trees on the opposite side of this little meadow. So I knew it was in the air. I also knew that it was making no sound, but I knew where I was, and it was moving on an angle, and I was on a path through these trees where I went hunting with my parents when I was a kid. And I knew if I ran down this thing, that the speed this thing was moving at, and I would arrive at the same place at the same moment, which is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
There it was. It wasn't, it was 50 or 100 yards away. It wasn't even, it was right in front of me.
Oh,
And
thank
there
goodness.
it sat. And I looked at it, and then it flew away in my line of vision very rapidly, but it was right in my line of vision so I could see it. And it went from where it was in front of me to someplace I still know the terrain. It was half to three-quarters of a mile away instantly. It didn't take a split second, and there it was. And then it went to my right and it vanished. Now, through this other method of accessing information that I have access to, this came
Mm-hmm.
up that has to do with energy by way of explaining that the ascended world, beings who aren't in the spirit world exactly, they're in at the elevated section of the upper echelon of the spirit world. Human incarnates come back and forth from the spirit world. This is the explanation that, or the description that
Yeah.
I, until their experience reaches an elevated level that allows them to be ascended, in which case they have membership in what is referred to as the Ascended Master's Octave of Perfection. The word octave is a reference to a vibration, but it's a vibration of light. And that light,
Mm-hmm.
the primal light that sustains the universe, and within which, according to what I'm told, and I agree with this, or I accept it, it's within that power that everything that exists was conceived of, made manifest, and is sustained. That is everything, including
Mm-hmm.
all self-conscious, individualized creations such as you and me and everybody else. So there it is. Now, the energy that emanates from that center of the universe, it's within that energy that planets are created, solar systems are created, people,
Yeah.
um, and everything else that you can see. So an ascended being has access to what they call the universal substance, which is the energy. Think
Mm-hmm.
of all as energy. From that energy, an ascended being can create anything very quickly. So the flying saucer story, this was brought to my attention recently. What I saw when I was a child looked to me like it was made out of some kind of metal, aluminum, whatever it was. But that's a rough color of it. And
Yeah.
however, what I was told was that, along with the other UFOs, so-called, that are created by beings who have that power, they can create that from energy. Now, once
Hmm.
you realize that, it explains why off San Diego, for instance, they've seen UFOs flying into the ocean. Other places see them flying into mountains. The reason is that the craft itself is energy. It can fit into the energy of the earth, the air, the water, or anything else, because that's what that's what it is. It blends with it universally, and it can be from where it is to where it wants to go instantly. There's,
Yes, you're right. That's what I heard on the podcast I did. And,
there's
I can see how that happens. So
no
it's
time.
very good.
It's like that's I don't know what else you've gleaned from the metaphysical discussions you've gotten into, but hearing some of it because I have a lot of information in that area, and what a lot of it I'll write about. That's why I've got the information. It's being funneled to me so that I can discuss it, write about it, think about it, use it. And
Yeah, definitely.
but when
And that's something that needs to be brought up. I mean, what was it last year on the news? They finally said, and yes, there are aliens.
I,
Next, Trump. Da, 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 da. I was like, wait, 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 wait. The news finally admitted there are aliens, but we want to talk about Trump? Like, this is big news.
well, let me ask you this. I noticed that too, that a year or two ago, the intelligence community, the military industrial complex, the
Yeah.
complexity of it, oil, banking, transportation, pharmaceutical companies, whatever, part of the military industrial complex. As Dwight Eisenhower said when he left office, beware of the military industrial complex. And he wrote quite a
Mhm.
bit about it. If you ever read it, it's quite interesting. Now it looks like it's more or less real. At any rate, so I noticed that. I mean, they finally admitted what they said never existed did in fact exist. I always knew they were lying because of what I saw when I
Okay.
was a kid. There I was 9 or 10 years old or whatever it was. And they're reading in the paper all these people who say, oh, yeah, I saw this thing. Oh, you're deranged mentally. There's something wrong with you. These people are crazy. They don't know what they're talking about. But I knew better because I saw that thing and I knew what it was. And so I knew that they were lying. And then
Hmm.
from that moment on, as a child in grade 5 or 6 or whatever it was, every time the government said anything, it would register. These people aren't always honest. As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, they're never honest. Who the hell knows what they're talking about? Because their story is convenient. They didn't want people to know that there were um, races from other planets. In my view, if the truth were known, the races from other planets have been here for centuries. They should have
Yes.
Earth membership, and they can live in. I think if we had the means to go inside the planet, we might find all sorts of things that we never thought were there. But our
Yeah.
well, we're these flying machines that go into the ocean, they go someplace. They didn't go in there so they could drown. They went there because they were going somewhere else
It's
into
like
the
another city with Aquaman. I'm kidding.
and there's lots of remote areas on the planet Earth.
Yeah.
Lots, they're probably inhabited, a lot of them, in ways that we don't see and haven't. But the intelligence community is sort of stuck with its own story, and they say, "Oh yeah, these things did exist, but did they talk about what that means? No. It's interesting. Yeah, they existed. Uh-huh. And
You see that
but
girl on the news.
And that
with the DFW airplane. Sorry, the DFW airplane, and she was in there, and she's like, I saw his eyes. What did I believe her? 100%. And then they were like saying, oh, well, she was drunk, or she didn't really see that. She got sent, to go get help. And then her story is like, I'm so sorry, guys, that didn't really happen. And, you know, I don't know. I'm very empathic. I know she saw correctly, but I feel like the government was like, shh, don't say anything, don't scare people. But that's just my take on it.
Yeah, well, I mean, nobody has, I've never said anything publicly about it. And so nobody's ever said, you're crazy,
Yeah.
don't talk about that. We don't want that story out there. It's too late. The story's out there anyhow. And um, it isn't going to go away. It's there it is. And who are these characters? Where did they come from? Um, Actually, one of the things that we were talking about songwriting, one of the songs that I have that's the subject of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it is really what we're talking about right now. And I know let me think about that momentarily. It's in our earth are many races that came here from other places. They're under the ground, they're under the oceans, they're in the mountains. They've been here for centuries, ruling us
That's
invisibly or not, or whatever. And but I want to get to know them, go to where they live, meet their wives and their kids, and fly through the galaxies in their ships. Let my
That'd
child,
be cool.
let my childhood dreams come true. That was, I used to think about them when I was a kid. I saw that thing and I thought, they can do that. They're flying all over the place. They can go
I
wherever.
know, right?
I could tell that.
This.
Zoom.
Hmm.
Here we are. And there's, I got a couple or three songs that deal with that. And
Hmm.
one of them, I told you, I saw this thing floating across the ground when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I mentioned it in one of the songs. I saw you, floating across the meadow, your silver ship stopped in
Hmm.
front. I looked at it and you looked at me, la di da di da. And then you flew away in my line of vision, stopped on a dime, then showed your speed and vanished in an instant. So now I want to know you and why you came to me. Your words come telepathically. You say, I flew here without time and a crew of 17. We saw many peoples. You'll never be alone. And it goes on from there. And it was telepathic. I wrote it all down as what's in that song. But
That is
that's
so cool.
here.
That is amazing.
We flew here without time and a crew of 17. So I did
Hmm.
sessions through my medium friend. I said, what do they do on other planets about money and how do they run the place so that it's civilized with money and time? The answer was there is nowhere other than Earth that uses money and time.
See, why can't we change that up? Why can't we get homes for free and live and enjoy life? And, money is extra. Hmm. Yeah, that's kind of like,
I think we're
that's a
headed for
good question. That's a really good question.
the phrase is the great transition. I don't know that
Yeah.
any looks at it, but where did Atlantis and Lemuria go, and why did they go any place? What happened to all those characters that were involved in the pyramids? Nobody carved those stones out of anything and carried them up and down. I don't. Are you kidding me? We did it
Yeah.
a million years to do that. That isn't what happened. But the people whose world is the world of energy that can do some of the things they do, I don't think they're perfect either. But whatever
Mm.
they're doing, it's a lot more sophisticated than we're aware of, or we
I
admit.
think they're ahead of us. Like we're still one behind. I gotta go back and listen to her thing. I think they're more advanced and we haven't hit that level yet.
No,
So they're seeing things in a different way that we see it right now.
no,
So
They
It's
certainly
just different. Like I will look back at some of my podcasts here on the show, and I've got to say, ever since I started this podcast, I have learned a lot from many different people. And just yesterday, I had the joy to interview another spiritual psychic medium person, and she was amazing. So she kind of talked in tune about that. But the more knowledge that comes out and about, the more awareness, I believe that they do want to stay hidden more times. It's just kind of like I feel like if they want to be a protector of us and protect us before any big major change happens in the world, and God forbid, I never want to go through a nuclear event, but I feel like that's when they would become really present to us and be like, hey, don't be scared. We're here to help and we could all get along. But, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
I
I'm
don't know.
realizing now at age 46, time flies very fast. So,
I think
but
it could
definitely,
happen a lot sooner than I don't know how long, but it's within eyesight in my view because of what I see going on here and there around
yeah.
it. There's conflict everywhere, and there doesn't seem to be a rational solution. The activity, if anything, exacerbates what's already happening. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
calm it down. However, that this is actually, that writing that I'm talking about. I know there's another. I have three songs that deal with this. Inadvertently, I just, they came to my mind, so I wrote all this stuff down. And um, there have been, and in my view, will be cataclysm. I mean, Atlantis and Lemuria are sunk under the oceans.
Yeah.
That's where they went. We at least know that much, but why? That's a good question. Cataclysmic upheaval. It can happen. It can happen again. There are
Mm-hmm.
fault lines on both sides of North America and in lots of other places. If the fault lines on the eastern and western seaboards of the United States fell into the ocean, there'd be a lot less people in the United States of America very quickly. Hundreds
That's what
disappear.
was it? I was thinking about this a couple days ago. You know, they were talking about making Texas like a country. I think it had to do with the Alamo or something. It was their anniversary and stuff. And I go, well, I don't know why, like, we get so many people from California moving to Texas, but you see that, like, bigger companies like Tesla, they're in Texas now. Their building is huge. It's like, did they know something that Californians don't know? Like maybe the state's gonna sink underwater. What's gonna happen? Like, Toyota was over there. Now they're in Texas. I thought I heard a long time ago, was it Jamba Juice or somebody coming down from California over to here too. So with the wild, fires, I think they got snow a little bit for it's been a long time for California. So I'm big on watching weather patterns too. So, and seeing like we here in Texas, this is people were in shorts the other day. It was like 89. I was like, I've never been through a February where it was that hot.
Yeah,
So it's just different. I was like, is that going to bring more bad storms or tornadoes, or is it going to be a bad hurricane season for us? What is going to happen? That it kept it nice and warm in February for us. So,
there's certainly a lot going on that's unusual. The
yeah,
climate is altering. There's no that's obvious. You don't need to think about it. It's evident.
it is. Yeah, definitely. It is. But, this is so awesome that, I'm sitting here with you talking about this and you know, a lot, it's so judgmental when people say, oh, if you're going to talk about this, there's something wrong with you. No, people go through experiences all the time. So maybe the person who is judging has had an experience too, but I know for me, I've seen enough to know that it's real in my life. So it's just accepting and learning and moving on. It doesn't change anything, but you can bring awareness to it if somebody wants to hear about it. So, and I love that I talk to other people on my podcast that had very similar or different, bigger experiences than this. So, it does, talk volumes and everything. So I know you mentioned you're going to be writing more books, I guess pretty soon. So do you do planning day by day, or do you plan in the next 5 years? I'm going to accomplish this. What are your goals look like for the upcoming year
What I'm
or
going to do
two?
is an audio book it'll have a lot to do with energy, but it'll be called Cosmic Golf, the Zone and the Golden Stroke. The zone is a term used by PGA Tour and other professional tour players as a state of mind they get into when everything goes the way it should. The ball goes where
Yeah.
it's supposed to go. That's the zone. Well, that's their term for it. But
Hmm.
golf has to do with energy, the zone. The golden stroke is the result of grasping how to tune into that energy so that you can cause to be what it is that you envision.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I'll do that. It'll be, um, it'll be an audio book initially. Otherwise,
Yay, I love audiobooks. I
oh,
always plug in my AirPods and listen to it. Granted, if I ever fall asleep to a book, I hope my brain soaks in all the knowledge and just hearing it. So,
well, when I
but
learned to read, if there have been audio books, I would have listened to them, but there weren't. And now there are. I have
hmm.
I listened to my own audiobook once. When I recorded it, it took 2 sessions. I read the whole book. Then we changed a couple of sentences here and there. The studio I did it in, the guy said he was reluctant to get involved in it. And finally I said, why? He records a lot of bands and everything anyhow. He said, well, I did one of these before and it took forever. These guys that come in here for 2 or 3 hours and they get 2 or 3 pages done. I said, it won't take me that long. And it didn't. It took me maybe 3.5 hours to read the whole book. And, but I wrote it. So, I was familiar with it. And
Yeah,
but I read it and I had no problem doing that. And so I'll do it again because for me, for some reason, it's easy. And, but that's what I'm going to do with that. The rest of what I write about, I've already recorded it, a lot of it. And,
yeah,
and I can have a transcript created from those recordings that I can then edit. I can, do whatever I want to create a printed version if anybody wants to order it, that is.
oh, that's cool.
Otherwise,
Yeah,
I end up keeping printing houses alive. I'm not interested in doing that unless somebody wants the book. And this book that I have now, I got originally 3,000 copies of it. None of this stuff sells quickly unless you've already got an audience and people are willing or waiting to see what you do next. So I've got books, and 300 books went into the gift bags at the Super Bowl.
oh, okay.
So whoever those 300 people are, they've got it in their gift bag.
That's awesome, though.
Just out of curiosity, I was thinking about it this morning. I think I'll get a hold of my brother's management company, Lookout Management, and Frank Geronda, who's the master of Lookout Management, and say, Frank, do we know anybody in Taylor Swift's management company? Get a hold, find out if that guy, I can't remember his name, who's engaged to Taylor Swift.
Oh,
The
did they get engaged? I'm out of the scoop, I guess. So they're engaged?
I don't know. They're definitely
Okay.
connected. So his name, I should be able to remember it, but I can't right
Kelsey?
now. Is that it? Yeah. He was the
Yeah.
center,
Is it Jason
city,
Kelsey or something?
something like that. So he's the center of the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm assuming that all the players on both teams were included in the 300 gift bags that were doled out. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So I'm going to see, like, get somebody to look in in Kelsey's that his name? In the gift
Yeah.
bag, see if they can find Mind Golf. Is it in there? I'm sure it is, or it's supposed to be. So anything. I mean, if you're going to print books now, the next one, audio book. That way, if anybody wants a printed book, we can create it, but it has an automatic receiver and it was
Yeah.
ordered. That
That's
makes
cool. What about PGA? I know here in Frisco, Texas, they bought or did the headquarters for PGA or something, and it's a big thing now here in Texas. And right next to it, in the next 5 to 6 years, they're building a Universal Studio, which is the first. I've never been to Universal Studio, and I hope to get to go even if I'm like 50 or 55 years old. Who knows how old I'll be. So, but those are just kind of like fun things to do. I know this is a cool story. I went to go get gas, and this was back in the summertime because I was somewhere else for my son's football practice and everything. And when I was getting pumping, I saw on the top of the thing, it looked like a book just stuck out. And I didn't touch it or anything. And I was like, I went in to go do the payment and then I went to the bathroom, but I was coming out and I just felt like my angel was talking to me, lift the book, lift the book. And so I put my hand up there and grabbed it when I came back, and it was a Bible. And it had two different verses on the cover. And then I opened it and it said, to whoever gets this book, I hope that God is with you and everything. But it was just there. It was like a pay it forward. So I did a TikTok video really quick and I was like, I found your book. This is what I need in this time. So, thank you. And it's like a pay it forward, gesture. But I was like, yeah, being at the Oscars or the Emmys or Super Bowl and getting your book out there, that would be amazing. But
well,
also word of mouth.
yeah. Well, all I can say is you just have to, keep doing discussions like this, and eventually it permeates the landscape. The writing, from my perspective, the writing is easy. The marketing
Yeah,
is another one.
marketing's fun. Yeah.
I see that it is maybe the path of least resistance for me is an audio book because it's easier. It doesn't, they don't cost as much for one thing. People can buy
Yeah.
it on their phone, their computer, and they can play it in their car systems. And
Yeah.
so if they're interested, there it is. So I
Yeah,
said, it's
definitely.
this conversation to the people who are interested in mind golf really want to know, how do you get the little white ball to go from where it is to where you want it to be next? That's why
Hmm.
I said you got to put it there, look up in the air, find the apex where the ball begins its descent, and you'll get a vision of the whole flight of the ball, and then swing the club and hit it, and it will start going in the right direction.
That's so cool.
That's
That's
it.
so cool. For some reason, I can see your book also being in many pro shops and everything. So, but I know the people that I talk to, I'm going to be promoting your stuff as well. So, golf is a great game. People love it. I know just when I was younger, hearing how everybody talks in the golf, I was a beverage cart girl. I worked in the kitchen sometimes too, it's just like these are fun times because you got to know everybody. And I think if I ever wanted a job again, I would go back to the golf industry because it was a lot of fun.
Well, the golf industry actually grew in the last few
Yeah,
years, partly because of COVID-19.
yeah,
And the reason is people could go to the golf course. They're wandering around in a big field. They're not in an enclosed area, but they're still doing something together. So
yeah.
people took up the game because it gave them that access to socializing with people where they
Mhm.
didn't have to risk being in an enclosed area. So they took,
Yeah,
and a lot of them keep playing it. People in the golf business, I have a friend in Canada who owns a golf course where I play. And we talked about it, you know. He said, my membership has increased, and so has everybody else's, and they're coming back. So, that went on for a couple or 3 years or whatever it was. And a lot of those people are still, they like the game, so they come there. They like the golf course. They can get out and cruise around it on their little golf carts, or they can walk. But
Yeah.
golf, you can play it from the time, your parents hand you a golf glove and say, hit the ball until you're, into your 80s or as long as you can maneuver around. So you can
Yeah, definitely.
play the game as long as you're alive, basically. Not many sports offer that. Certainly not
Yeah.
hockey or basketball
Well,
or, you know,
football. I've been doing a lot of football. My son wants to play basketball again. So I'm trying to get ready for that, And I was just like, I'm excited because he's going to be entering middle school. But, even with sports, I think there has to be new changes and stuff. I know we had a 4.5 hour drive to San Antonio for something called the Border Wars. But the referees, I guess, there was yelling from parents and stuff. They just quit on spot and just, nope, we're not doing your game. So, like, I there's so much topic right now. When is it okay to like even just walk off a field and say no? The coaches were talking to the refs, please, we have all these parents that drove this far to come and see this game. And when they say no, 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 it's like, okay. But I know we got hurt again. Three of our players got one a concussion, a hurt finger, and a swollen knee. So the kids, once again, they looked a little bit older, even though they weren't. I don't think they were. So yeah, I had last time that happened, it turned out to be really bad for one of our kids because the kid knocked him over and his growth plate got ruined in his knee and it broke and everything. So he was held up in one of those slings for many weeks. So it's an interesting story of how that was handled and everything.
well, if I had any children, I would suggest that they take up the game of golf, and if they like it, fine. And I don't know that I've even mentioned this before, but if anybody who's intrigued by what we're discussing and wants to follow up, and they can go to my website, is bobyounggolf.com. It's
Yep.
easy. And
Perfect.
and they can, access whatever's there. There's quite a few podcast interviews, stuff I did with months ago with I think it was either NBC or MSNBC golf. And at any rate, and people who are interested in the kind of things you are too, metaphysical stuff. Um, so I guess it's the golf world has definitely got that connotation to it that has to do with where your mind is directed, and that's why that book is called Mind Golf. My friend Moe Norman always said, "It's in the mind." He would point there. It's in here, Bob. So,
You're
and
in
he
charge. It's in your brain.
would
How
say
you
that
envision it, you'll
you
succeed
have
that
to.
goal. So,
What he said, it's in the mind. He said you have to have a quiet mind. It's like music. That was one of his comments, and he meant the creative power in music is what he was talking about because he realized
oh,
it's the same energy. And for a very deep guy and a total, I mean, nobody could figure out what he did. He stayed away from the mainstream of life. Business, no, they're involved in too many things I'm not interested in. And then they get involved in conflicts and wars. No, thank you. He went to the golf course and he stayed there. And he hit golf until they went where he wanted them to. And he played in golf tournaments. And that was it. That was Moe
oh,
Norman. But he was a deep thinker at the same time. And
yeah, yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So, well, I know your time is very valuable, and I really thank you for coming on our show and sharing so much information about your book, the audio version of it too, and the metaphysics and everything. I had fun talking about everything with you.
I enjoyed it too.
So,
Thanks
oh,
for
well,
inviting me.
you are so welcome. Really quick, I want to thank our other sponsors for Keep Hope Alive. We had talked about lifeonrecord.com, your interactive guest book for any event that you're planning. Check them out. We also had snap bands at www.snapbands.com. They help reduce anxiety, OCD, and work with cognitive thinking. Our next one is Ogden Ventures LLC. Marcus Ogden, he is a former NFL player, keynote speaker, best-selling author, and podcast host. Got to check out his information too. He's wonderful at what he does. He has a book called Sleepless Nights, The Success Style, and it's amazing. So, our next one is bridalshowsinc.com. If you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area planning a big event or wedding, they will have many vendors there showcasing their work and what they can do for your event. You can book appointments with them and everything. They have about 5 to 6 shows out of the year, so look them up. Miles and Smiles Events.com. Miss Deborah Rose, her background is investigator. She also does handwriting analysis and lipstick readings, and she's 100% accurate. She makes any event very special and jaw-dropping. Our next one is Bryce Harney. You might have seen him on TV. He is a magician and mind mentalist. He's going all across the United States doing different shows and everything. But if you go to www.brycemagic.com, you'll find so much more information on him. Our next one is richmondpunch.net. He graduated from the Juilliard. He's a violinist and has been doing this for over 30 years. He is extraordinary. He's performed in front of 1 million people before, and he has also been on 2 Lifetime shows playing the violin in the background. So that is really good. And our last one is TK Hair Salon at www.tkhairsalon.com. If you need a haircut, perm, or highlights, or full color, they do it all. Friendly. They're located in Plano, Texas. So come on down. So if you have any questions for Bob or myself, you can always call 833-780-HOPE, which is 4673, and we'll be able to get those answered right away for you. Other than that, wherever you guys find your podcast, you'll be able to find us at Keep Hope Alive Podcast. If you want to become a guest, please send us an email at nadine@keephopealivepodcast.com. Once again, Bob, thank you so much for coming on. And until next time, guys, love and light.
Thank you.